What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerf herders, and welcome to the Carbonite Chat. Today I'm going to be doing the Captain Mar-vell review, and just as kind of a pre-warning, I'm probably going to do this review in my best Brie Larson or Captain Mar-vell impression, which means I'm going to have very little emotion, probably none, and I'm just going to be a little bit snarky and sarcastic. Is about all you're going to get out of me for this. So, if you liked Captain Mar-vell, you'll probably like this review. Also, if you did like Captain Mar-vell, which some of you may like this movie, if you did like it, that's probably because you find things like character arcs where a character slowly changes with struggle over time. You find that a bit laborious and not really necessary for a good quality story. Or if you find something along the lines of like character change and conflict in the story, you find that kind of overrated. What's the point? I want to see a character that is incredibly powerful at the beginning, that really has no issues, no struggles, nothing she needs to improve on or like get better at. But then somehow at the end, she's like slightly a little bit stronger and better. And that's what makes the movie great. And if you like this movie is for you. If you didn't, like me, you're pissed off because this movie was awful. I mean, this movie was so terrible. You've got absolutely terrible writing. I won't say very obvious agenda. I've seen a lot of people think there's not an agenda in this, which surprised me. I guess they couldn't write anything like subtext subtly. They couldn't write anything that wasn't basic exposition while sitting down, standing around a room talking. This is basically what I'm doing now. As I said, is a great impression of the Captain Mar-vell movie because it's a lot of sit in a car and talk about everything, or fly in an airplane and let's explain what's been going on so long, because we don't think the audience is that smart to figure it out, which if you did enjoy the movie, I'm not going to say that because I can maybe kind of see how some people could enjoy this. If you don't pay too much attention to it. It's very much like the Solo movie, but the Solo movie is much better than this in that sense. This movie's really, really bad. But in the sense that if you just shut your mind off, you could find it enjoyable. If you think about it for a half a second, you start to see all the issues. The fact that there's no characters. The only semi-character in this movie with any kind of emotional kind of tag that the audience can kind of root for or care about is Ben Mendelsohn. Who plays Talos for the Skrull. Outside of that, there's nothing. There's no real conflict. There's no real struggle. There's no emotional connections between the lead actress and the other people around. But let's kind of break this down one by one. I'll get into things at pieces, and I'm going to leave out some of my review of this, but I'll get to why I'm doing that just a little bit later. First, I want to start with one great thing. If you're not seeing it, the only unfortunate part is, and you may probably be able to see it at Avengers Endgame if this movie doesn't ruin that, of course, and that is the Stan Lee opener for the Mar-vell. Instead of having the typical Mar-vell opening, it had a bunch of clips of Stan Lee, and that was just, that was really great. But then the movie starts. Basically, you see her having a dream, and she wakes up and she goes and sees Jude Law. And this is where it begins the typical feminist writing, or writing that people do nowadays that are trying to write strong women. And that is, you tell the audience, which you're in this way, they're telling Brie Larson or Captain Mar-vell, Carol Danvers, Veers, whatever you want to call her, that she's too emotional. You got to control your emotion. You got to control this emotion. You're getting out of control. Now, if you watch the scene, she's not out of control in any way, shape, or form. The other guy's just slightly ducking her moves, but there's nothing to show or express that she's out of control or that she's overly emotional. And you actually don't see that at any point in the movie. There's no point in the movie in which she is too emotional or she runs into trouble because she's too emotional. Remember in Empire Strikes Back where Yoda and Obi-Wan continually try to talk to Luke about not going, don't go, we're warning you. You have the mentor warning the younger person that, hey, you don't really know, you're not prepared, you need to work on these things, and they ignore it, and boom, he gets a hand cut off and loses terribly to Darth Vader. In this movie, though, because of the way it's written, And because of this fear with some of these people that you can't show a female character struggling or having a weakness, then they just don't have any weakness. But you got to have a weakness. That's the basics of storytelling and writing. So I guess in these writers' minds, what they're doing is they're saying, okay, let's just say she has a weakness. If we just say she has a weakness over and over, then the audience will just be, oh, wow, she's too emotional. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh, she's not emotional. She must have had a character arc. But she didn't. she didn't. Never at any point is she emotional. At any moment. Ever. It's the exact opposite. The joke I had at the beginning of this video, she had no emotion. It makes no sense. The only way it makes sense is if it's a feminist writer and they're trying to portray what they view as how men always treat women, saying that they're too emotional. But I'm not going to get into the feminist thing. I said one of the things I was going to leave out is all of the feminist stuff in this, because I think some people might try to debate that this is feminist, just because I've seen some other people say that they didn't think it was feminist, which in that case, I'm going to do a full video on just the feminist, because it's actually more allegorical in a lot of ways. Some ways it's right in your face, and sometimes you don't miss the connections between two scenes that are separated from a large distance, such as the very obvious scene at the end where it's singing the Just a Girl, where she's having the fight scene. Is so stupid. But what you might not also catch, the connection between the two, they separated them by a large amount, which is very smart. But the only connection between those two is when she lands on Earth at the very beginning, and she goes and sees the very slob, you know, kind of fat in a crappy car, working a not so great job, and she goes up to him and she's kind of already looking at him kind of weird or whatever. And he's supposed to look like a doofus in this thing. I mean, just an idiot. And he rolls down the window and the song's "What a Man, What a Man, What a Man." So the kind of symbolism that they're kind of painting very slightly but sneakily throughout this entire movie is women good, men bad. But I'm not going to break that down throughout this one because there's plenty of stuff ignoring the feminist stuff that shows this movie's absolutely terrible. So even if you want to say, oh, it's great, it's not. So that'll come out right after this video, by right after, probably tomorrow. I'll probably going to film it right after this, but it won't come out till tomorrow. But that's something that I'm going to leave out of this. So if you're getting mad because I'm leaving it out, don't worry. I'm going to get to it later. But I think this movie's bad enough that I can break it down without all of that just absolutely just stupid stuff. The other thing that they talk about here is that she has doubt. That, you know, you doubt yourself, and that's going to be dangerous. You can't doubt yourself. The emotional part, I get, as far as like actually fighting, because if you get emotional in a fight, you're going to make a mistake and lose. It's pointless to tell her this because she has no emotions whatsoever. She's a robot. Something similar I've heard with another strong female character that's come out in the last few years, but we won't get on that topic. But doubt, that's another thing that they say that she has. They talk about this, but you never see it. Now, when she's not fighting or not doing anything or not making any decisions, they'll bring back up in exposition either by her just talking about it or an actor bringing it up, like what Sam Jackson did while they were riding in the car. Again, more exposition while they're just sitting there to say, oh yeah, we're not really showing anything. Oh, by the way, this isn't the only reason why you're on Earth. I can tell a rogue soldier when I see one. It's just kind of like, oh, remember, don't forget, there's supposedly this struggle she has. And then when she's around people and there's no fighting or there's no conflict, she's like, I just don't know who I am. This is such an issue. But if you watch, there's never a moment where she doubts herself or doubts her ability. She's always ready to step in, and she's sure she's going to get it. She's sure she can do it all on her own. There's not a point where if she doubted herself, when her mentor, Jude Law, I can't remember his actual name of the character, she's down on Earth, she calls him and he says, okay, stay there till we get there, because the scroll could have been messing with your mind and you might have some things implanted in there. Wait till we get there because they might capture you again. They capture you once, they can capture you again. Now, if she has doubt, she's going to want to stay there. Now, you might say, oh, but then the movie's boring and nothing happens. Yes, but that's where you throw in conflict or some issue where then the person attacks and then she runs off. But she was very clearly never going to listen to him. She was going to go off on her own the entire time. Which, again, the end is talking about how she's human and she's rebellious. And there's supposedly this arc of this moment where she stands up. Except for she admits from the very beginning she's rebellious. And every action she does is largely rebellious. Told not to use her hands, shoots Jude Law. Goes and wakes him up instead of taking the pills that she could take to make herself go to sleep. You know, going in and trying to go in by herself to get the guy that they're trying to find. Running away on Earth when she wasn't supposed to. You can go on and on with the fact that she's rebellious. Even when she's talking to Sam Jackson, he gives the human speech, which makes absolutely no sense, but we'll get there. He says, human, he went with his gut and disobeyed order. I guess that's what makes us human. And she goes, yeah, it sounds like me. And he's like, so it's her the whole time. But at the end, she says, oh, you're just a human. And she's like, oh, I am a human. Maybe I should act like one, even though I said myself like 30 minutes ago, I already act like one. It's so stupid. Brilliant writing. Brilliance, which is unfortunate because these people did Half Nelson, which was actually a really good movie with Ryan Gosling. I believe it's on Netflix. But here they went full idiot mode on this one and just, oh, so stupid. So we jump from that immediately to, of course, exposition. So what's more intriguing as a story than to put two characters standing there in a train talking about something? No conflict either. There's no back and forth. There's no disagreements where you're weaving in exposition into an argument or some kind of conflict that's like challenging your lead character. You're not challenging the lead character. It's a fun back and forth. And this is one of the problems Marvel likes to do, where they'll put exposition in a situation where people are just standing, and then they'll try to add humor around it, as if that hides the fact that it's lazy writing. But it's not. It's still lazy writing. They didn't need this. They could have immediately jumped to the intelligence and would have found out that, we would have found out enough of the information that we needed. But they felt like they needed to add this in and tell what happens. And they even bring it up again later because they don't think people are smart enough to get this movie that's so dumb. So they just keep repeating things over and over in the most blatant, boring exposition moments, period. But then she goes to see the Supreme Intelligence. And what do we have here? More talk of emotion, more talk of doubt. But yet again, exposition, just chatting it out, no big deal, just sit here and talk. Yet again, no conflict either. They fake conflict because you see a slight amount of like emotion out of Carol Danvers, where she kind of comes forward and she's like, I don't know what's going on, but then instead of challenging her and making it be like, it's going to be a tough thing that you got to solve, or giving her something that she's got to struggle with, the Supreme Intelligence goes, well, it's probably for the best. I mean, which is the true storyline of this, which is a lot of bad things happen to a lot of people, but it never happens to Carol Danvers. This is the story of how everything just works out for her, which is just, oh God. It's really hard not to just hammer at the feminist crap in this movie right now, but I'm holding it off. I'm holding it off till the next video. But this is working me up, so I'll really get to hammer it home right after this when I film the next one. But then she goes and they've got a mission. They talk about the emotional struggles with the Supreme Leader, which is just pointless. And they hint at one thing, that she's got the little thing on her neck. And I was like, that's it. That's what they're going to have. That's going to be like the Superman's kryptonite. There's going to be one thing where she's going to be super powerful throughout the whole time, but then right as she gets to the big moment, they're going to shut that power off. And she's going to have to figure out how to deal with it. And that's where we're going to see her emotion act out at first, but then she's going to have to like settle herself and then finally win at the end. Kind of a la like Rey was at the beginning of the Force Awakens fight, where she was kind of losing to Kylo at the beginning, and then she kind of like settled herself, trusted in the Force, and came back and won. So I thought that was what we were going to do. I was like, well, at least they're going to give her something. They got something that can shut the power off. Of course, if you've seen the movie, you know where that goes, but we'll get to that in time. So they go to see the scroll. They go to find the guy, and of course it's the scrolls that are there. I just find it ironic that she immediately says, let me go down there by myself. And Jude Law's like, no, you can't do that. You're not ready. Okay, you can go do it. It's like 2 seconds later, it's like, oh, never mind. Sure, you got it, bro. You just go ahead. Go ahead and do it. Which is fine. I mean, there's got to be some levels of stupidity in it to make things happen, because if all characters are completely competent, it kind of gets a little bit boring to some extent, so I could let that pass. I just thought it was a little bit dumb. Now, the one other thing that needed to be done is, prior to this little scene, is the Star Force stuff. There should have been more. There's like a moment of back and forth. You actually saw a little bit of personality from Captain Marvel, which maybe if they would have been able to have that group together with some people that she was comfortable with at the beginning, we could have seen her character, got connected to her a little bit, instead of her just being out on her own or being snobby or not really having any reactions or emotions over anything. And then we may have connected more. Or even more important, or just as important, is, again, if you're watching this as spoilers, obviously, but at the very end, she has to fight against them. Couldn't you have added some emotion to that scene? And very clearly, when I get to it, we're going to know that they didn't want any emotion in that scene, because of the song choice and because of the way Captain Marvel was acting in that scene. But I'm not going to get on that yet because we're not there yet. But anyways, it would have been better, if you're actually trying to write a decent story, to have made them have a good connection. Have little moments between her and each one of the characters from the Star Force, so that at the end, when she has a turn, it's an emotional moment. There are some struggles. There are some questions to whether or not the decision she's made is right. Because, see, if you're making a character that's ultimately super powerful, the struggle they have to have is inner. She can beat the Star Force easily, but does she want to? Is it tough for her? Is there remorse? Is there a struggle because they were my friends? See, that's what you do if you want to write a good story. If you want to have a super strong character, you give them an inner struggle. Like Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back again, or Return of the Jedi, where Darth Vader could have just absolutely destroyed Luke in Empire Strikes Back, but he doesn't, because he realizes that he's his son and he's trying to show him the power of the dark side and then slowly woo him and bring him in. Then when the Return of the Jedi comes, he's got some struggle about maybe his son's right. Maybe Emperor Palpatine, he's trying to kill my son, and there's that inner turmoil that turns him into being able to be defeated. So you've got to have something. There's got to be some struggle, and there's no struggle with this character. And so the mentioning that she's emotional, mentioning that she has doubt, when the audience sees there's nothing showing that that's true as we go forward, they begin to not believe it. And then there's no connection. There's no one to root for. There's no one to cheer for. There's no one to buy into, because you can't connect with that. I get overly emotional sometimes. I don't do everything absolutely perfect 24/7 and just have everything work out for me. I don't happen to crash a car into a tree and then the car explodes and I become ultra powerful and nothing bad happens in it. And you might say, oh, well, that's all superhero scenarios. Spider-Man gets bit by a spider and everything goes well for him. Yeah, but right after that, Spider-Man's uncle died and he has to struggle with that scenario. And he has to deal with whether or not he wants to go and get revenge and go after somebody, or if he wants to do what the best thing is, with great, what is this quote again? With great, I don't know, you know the quote. You know what I'm talking about. But in this one, they could have done somewhat along the lines with what they did in the comics, where Mar-vell, which was a man in the comics, but they couldn't do that here because feminism, all the good people had to be women, other than Sam Jackson. Well, we'll get to it. Not getting on that now. So Mar-vell in the comics got sick and died, and this was a huge struggle. This was a huge issue that Captain Marvel had to deal with and get over. And so similarly, yeah, she got all the power and all that superhero thing. That's going to happen. But there was a negative aspect that came from it. There's this thing that has to make them question whether or not it might have been worth getting what they got. You have it with Tony Stark, where he's slowly losing Pepper Potts because of this situation. You know, with each character, you have these minor little things that are added to it, whether or not it's the best thing for them. But with Captain Marvel, she just dies, and oh man, that sucks. She was a good woman. Okay, let's move on. There's nothing to it. There's absolutely nothing, because everything just always works out perfectly for them. Then we have one of the montages that they put in, which for anyone that doesn't know, montages for Captain Marvel writers is character building. Not scenes, not moments, not like... So they have exposition where they just talk. And they have exposition where they just throw in a big montage. And that's supposed to be... That's basically exposition. Like, oh, here's her... See, she had a friend. See, she was fun. See, it's like... It's unstated exposition through montage that is no different than basic exposition. There's nothing to it in the story other than laziness. Pure, utter laziness. And there's not any building up in this moment. It's just, we can do it. Now, I did like the concept of this scene where they're able to reverse things and bring it back. Reminded me of the movie that Denzel Washington was in, Deja Vu. Not the greatest movie in the world, but I've always kind of enjoyed it. It's very intriguing, interesting concept that somebody had as for a movie, and they definitely took it and used that here, and I like that idea. But you go through the more blatant feminist bullcrap, which I'll bring this up because this one's so blatant. It starts out with her, and I think it's Maria something, I don't remember her last name, but they go and she's like, let's show the boys how it's done, which I would be fine with that. Don't have an issue with that. When I first heard it, no big deal. Okay, you're going to have that. It's a power woman kind of movie. Sure, that's fine. But then it's followed by the rest of the things, which then now allows me to not write off this let's show the boys how it's done crap. Which, let's show the boys how it's done is the only thing the only moment you actually have is a combination between her and her friend when they're then supposed to meet, and she has this full turn because her friend leaves her there, and it's supposed to be emotional. Except for all you have is her walking up saying, let's show these boys how to do it. Fly further, faster. But you go from her, show the boys how to do it, whatever, and then you immediately jumping into, she's racing go-karts, and then she's told to slow down by some boy, arguably her brother or something, because of what she says to the dad afterwards, where she wrecks, and then he comes out there and says, you don't belong out here, and she says, you let them do it. It makes no sense on so many different levels, unless you're a feminist. Then it makes perfect sense. It makes no sense. No dad, when seeing their little girl have a horrible wreck like that, goes out and just yells at them for it. If they're so worried about them out there, why did they let them go out there to begin with? It doesn't make any levels of logical sense. But the dad is going to be like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you all right? And then, you shouldn't have been out there. You know, I've told you not to be out there. But you see her busted up, there's her lips bleeding. And the dad's just like, stupid idiot. That just doesn't make sense. Same thing doesn't make sense when she's in the army and she's hanging there. And they're like, you're going to fall and die. No, a lot of scientists or psychologists have said one of the big issues in the army is when you have a woman with a troop of men, that the men are so careful to try to protect, and they're not being at their highest level of potential of fighting because they're worried about protecting the girl. And I know feminists are going to say that's sexist and all this crap, but that's just natural in men, is to try to protect those around them, particularly women and children. If you have a problem with that, well, I don't have much time for you. But that's how it tends to be. You're not going to have a group of 20 guys looking up there at a girl that could fall to her death and just be like, ha ha ha, you can't do it. You can't do it, you loser. And even if you play that, that's possible. That's probably what they would do to their guy friends. And so if you were to play the feminist thing of men and women should be treated perfectly the same, then you're just being treated like all the guys would treat each other. I would probably laugh at my friend, unless he actually could die. I wouldn't laugh at him in that case. I'm not that terrible of a person. Close, but not quite that terrible. And then she falls and they just laugh at her. It's so stupid. Then you have the wonderful joke that honestly wish I would have came up with it. I want to be in the Air Force just for this, is, oh, you know, that's why they call it a cockpit, which they repeat because they thought it was so brilliant. These idiots thought it was so brilliant of a line that they repeated it. And then she shoots it like, ha, got him. She's better. She's the powerful Captain America. What's this guy doing? Nothing, probably. And she's got fire hands. It's just so dumb. And then to prove how powerful and great she is, she breaks out. She's got her hands completely covered, so she can't use what's her greatest power. She's just a normal person at this point. And she's barefooted. And she fights off 20 of Talos's, what he says later, is 20 of his best men with her hands bound. With basically no struggle at all. She just runs through and just beating them up, making little quippy jokes like she's Tony Stark. It's just awful. 100% awful. Then, when she finally gets a little bit challenged, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. We're finally going to get some struggle. We have this moment kind of like in 300 where Leonidas has to come forward and the big, ogre guy comes out. And then Leonidas, who's been just wrecking fools, now he meets a guy that he's really got to kind of dig deep to win. And she is knocked back, and you're like, all right, what's she going to do? And then she finally fires it off, blows them away, and then the wind goes, and she's in a whole other scenario where now she's falling to Earth, which makes no sense because both the Skrull and the Kree left from the same location. Now, the Skrull are trying to get light speed because they don't have light speed power, which will allow them to get where they need to go or find places and be able to find a home. So they need light speed power. So their ship is not going to be as good as the Kree ship. When she's hanging upside down, they find out that Pegasus and Lawson are on Earth. And so they say, we're going to head there now. Right after that, she breaks free. They have a quick little fight, and then she falls out onto Earth. How did they get there so quickly? How? Because when the Kree are talking about it, and they say, where's she at? When she calls, she says, I'm on Earth. It's like C-53 or something. I don't care. They say, how far away is it? He says, 22 hours. How do you get this separation? I guess just because you just do. That's how it goes. It works out. If you're writing a good movie, I let those things pass. But when you write a crap movie, I'm nitpicking on these little things. Because it shows you didn't even get the big stuff right, so you don't deserve to get leeway on the little things. Movies make these little jumps, and you let it pass because you kind of let your mind kind of go on some things. But here, I mean, it's just too much. I already talked about the slob, and then there's some more stuff that goes on with Blockbuster, but I'll get to that again tomorrow. The face de-aging, though, this was brilliant. This was absolutely brilliant. Sam Jackson's was amazing. There was never a moment that I did not fully buy into that that's just a young Sam Jackson. On the other hand, Coulson, when he had the glasses on, worked perfectly. When he took the glasses off, there was that touch of what tends to happen when they de-age. You notice this at the Terminator Genesis or whatever. And you also noticed it more so with Princess Leia in Rogue One, where I guess if they're younger, the shine kind of makes them be less, you realize something's up. With me, that was the only thing that I could kind of notice with the Alita movie, which I'm going to get to Alita as well, because along with my feminism breakdown of this movie, I'm also going to show how you write strong women characters, strong female characters that men, women, everybody likes, because it's just how you write characters. It's not about writing strong females or strong males. It's about writing strong characters that happen to be male or happen to be female. Yes, when you pick which gender they're going to be, you add some femininity or some masculinity or whatever it is, depending on how you want that character to be. But ultimately, it's about being a great character. The base has to be a great character. That's it. Doesn't matter about what genitalia they have. Doesn't mean anything. I've already done my own video on Kill Bill versus Ray. That was copyrighted by the Weinstein Company because who knows? Because freaking Harvey Weinstein's got a little extra time on his hand now that he's not able to do casting couches for all of Hollywood. So he copyrights my freaking video that's not plagiarizing anything. But moving along, I lost my train of thought when I was, the de-aging. How did I get all the way over there on de-aging? Oh yeah, Alita, which I'm going to do a video on Alita versus Captain Marvel, and also probably Wonder Woman versus Captain Marvel. And I can continue that trail for a while if we want to. But the de-aging thing, Sam Jackson is pulled off perfectly. Coulson, when he doesn't have the glasses, it's out in the daylight. You can see it's a little shiny. When it's not in the daylight, there's some shadows, it works brilliantly. Especially the last scene of the movie. It's just kills it. Perfectly done. I don't know if it has to do something with, it's a little bit harder with a white person versus a black person. And that maybe there's that shine that you can make it look a little more natural. I think Tarkin looked a little more natural. And that very well could be because of the wrinkles and stuff that they had to add in and kind of like the little spots. And so that made it look more real. But when you're just trying to do a younger person, particularly white, that it just gives this gloss to them that looks fake. But moving along, it was great. Good job. But one of the best things about the movie, another thing I actually really liked was the train scene. You had some level of conflict for, Captain Marvel. Nothing to any high stakes, but it was just a basic scene. This scene could work in any movie. It works fine. I mean, she doesn't have to be cut in half in the scene to actually be a struggle. But everything doesn't work out for her. But ultimately, it's just a good scene where they show what the Skrull could do, where you're seeing her, she's chasing down the Skrull, and he's changing. He changes into the old lady. Funny scene where she hits the old lady. Obviously, I have Stan Lee cameo, which was good. Has a little bit of struggle fighting him off. And then you also have the reveal that Agent Coulson this whole time has been Ben Mendelsohn's character, Talos, which was well done. I thought that was a nice little bit of writing to roll that in. And they didn't sell it. They didn't give it away too quickly, which they did do on every other point after this. They just give it away immediately. There's not like, oh, hey, we got this little thing in the bag where we can trick you and you never know who the character is going to be, but we're never going to do that again. From now on, we're going to, oh, it wasn't Ben Mendelsohn's character. I'm sorry, because the guy died. I don't remember who the guy's name is. But then they died. They had the car crash. And immediately Sam Jackson gets out and says, S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm sorry. Obviously, throughout the rest of the movie, continuity and caring about the rest of the story doesn't matter much of everything else that's come before it. But S.H.I.E.L.D.? This is before all the other movies, other than, obviously, the Captain America one. But there was a running joke between Tony Stark and Agent Coulson, where Agent Coulson read out the entire thing forever. And Tony Stark kept making fun of it, until finally he goes, S.H.I.E.L.D. We've shortened it up. It's nice. That was a running gag. And now, on multiple occasions, Sam Jackson says, S.H.I.E.L.D. And nobody cared about this? Nobody thought anything about the fact that they're just bringing that up? More dumbness is the thing that probably was reshoots after what everybody said to her, was the smile for me thing, which is just so dumb. But let's just play it on the logic of this scene in this moment. Much like Thor had to deal with before in his movie, and what Wonder Woman had to do with in her movie, they're in a world that they don't understand or know. With Captain Marvel, she's trying to kind of fit in a little bit. There's no out of this, like, fish out of water moment. There's no awkwardness here that can add humor or put her in a kind of weird situation where she struggles a little bit. Like, freaking Superman loses some of his powers when he's on Earth at the beginning because he can't deal with some of it. But there's nothing with Captain Marvel. But then he says the thing about, oh, nice scuba suit, and then she doesn't have any reaction, and he was like, oh, relax, give me a smile. And she does it. What I don't get, though, the logic that doesn't work here is she's trying to get around on this planet. She's not trying to draw, like, attention to herself or be weird or be different. So she gets mad at this. So that only tells me that, does this happen all the time on Halos or whatever the Hollow, whatever the planet is? Do Krees do this? I can't imagine they do, because we know, well, maybe they do, because the Kree in this kind of portray like the patriarchy and white males to a large extent, so possibly it does. So maybe that's why she knew it was a diss. Because logic would state that if you have it, if it's only white males and men that do this, because we're the terrible people, we're the worst, most awful people, then what really happens is she says, she thinks in her mind, okay, I'm supposed to be blending in here. I should smile. He's saying that because a normal person would be smiling now. And so she would smile. But instead, she just gives a, and then lifts it back up, and then like, oh, let me just, because he's a white male, I can steal from him. Then we have some more stupidity. It could have been done well. They did it semi-well later. Sam Jackson's eye's hurting. And so you have the eye, and it's like, oh, how's your eye? And it's like, oh, because we're all wondering when his eye's going to happen. And it's like, oh, it's perfectly fine. Which is okay. But then we find out at the end, the way it gets hurt is a cat scratches it. Which is so stupid. So dumb. But if you wanted to play it for humor, why didn't you do it like you did with the cat before? The Flurkin, or whatever the crap it is. There's the old saying of jokes come in three. And the third, you got to set it up where the third one's the final kind of payoff of, oh, that's what they do with the cat. First off, it's just a cat, blah, 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 and then it freaks out, head comes out, boom, picks up the Tesseract. And then the second one, it comes out, eats all the people. It looks stupid because it looks like the Rathtar scene from Force Awakens, which is awful. But then the final one, it's like, oh, now it's going to attack. But it doesn't. Funny. It's stupid, but at least you're obeying kind of basic writing principles of how to pay something off, how to set up something so that it's humorous without like making a quick quip or something that like Marvel likes to do. But then, why didn't you do this with the eye? You're setting up for a stupid joke. I mean, it's just a dumb joke. They may have cut it, because there's some things they definitely cut out of this movie that they were setting up. But I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. I'm just going to say they did terrible. And why didn't you have another moment later on when they're fighting where it looks like, dang, he definitely lost his eye in this one. And then it ends up being fine. And then so finally the third one's like, oh my god, it was a cat. Like I thought it was a car wreck, the scroll in him. And then I thought it was the battle that was going on where Star Force and bullets were flying everywhere, and something ricocheted off and hit him in the eye, and he fell down screaming, and I was like, oh my god, there's his eye. And then no, it was perfectly fine. Like, oh, I guess we don't find out. And then cat scratches it. Stupid. But at least, again, you're paying attention to decent writing skills. You're doing something to set up a joke instead of just randomly throwing it in. Like, we don't give a crap about what happens with anything. We don't give a crap about Sam Jackson's character kind of having, some foot to stand on, that he's kind of, badass or whatever. No, we're just going to make him kind of a joke. Which is what they do. Later on, she takes this communicator. You got to take it away from him because he doesn't deserve it. It's just like, and then speaking of just bad jokes, they lift it up and try to lick the alien dick, which is just so dumb. Because that's what all of us guys do. We go in somewhere and we're like, everybody pull it down your pants. Let's see what it looks like, guys. It's just so, but also what doesn't work is if you pay attention, Ben Mendelsohn's character gives the look to Sam first about like, you want to look down there? But he wouldn't want to look down there because he's a Skrull. He knows what it looks like. So it just doesn't make sense because they don't know how to write. They don't know how to do anything. Then we have more flashes at the bar that shows what's going on. Yet again, visual exposition with no emotion, which means no character building up, which means no stakes and no emotion and character moments later on when you try to tell one little story about, hey, you woke up early one time and then we raced our cars. I'm going to cry because I was just thinking about you dying and just struggling. And it's so emotional because you're my best friend in the world and I just don't know what to do. That's what's so bad. You just don't buy it. I don't care. Like, I've never seen you two together. Actually, I don't buy that y'all are friends. There's nothing about it. Like, there was a little bit of connection between her and the daughter towards the end of the movie where I was like, I buy that they knew each other. But there's nothing really beforehand with Maria. But they put in flashbacks and flashes where she remembers things because, again, that's exposition. Then we have more exposition. At least it's somewhat interesting where they explain how they find out whether or not you're Skrull. But again, it's just basic exposition. Then we get in the car for more exposition because that's how you write when you're an idiot. And then that scene, in this exposition-filled time, is another moment where, like I said before, she mentions to, or Sam Jackson mentions, I know that's not the only reason you're down here. I can tell a rogue agent. It's like, oh, hint, hint, hint. This is where this whole time it should have been subtle. And this should have been subtext. That's not said. It should have been a little look at Sam Jackson. They're like, where you can tell something's up. I know that's not why you're here. That's not the only reason, but it shouldn't be said. It should have been hidden. This whole storyline of her having another reason because she's trying to find herself. She's trying to figure out who she is. She doesn't know. She doesn't feel right as a Kree. She's not really kind of grasping what it is. But it's this inner turmoil that's not brought up every second. That every character isn't saying, you've got inner turmoil. You don't know who you are. You're struggling emotionally. You have doubt. But where it's just all in the face, where then we look at it and we're like, well, actually judging by how she's acting, it doesn't seem like it's really affecting her that much. But if you had her acting decently, like, I don't know, somebody that's won an Oscar before, that's what should have happened with this. This whole little inner turmoil struggle should have been subtext, not stated, kind of hidden, where the audience slowly starts to pick it up as the movie goes on. But no, you can't do that. You can't make anything. There can't be struggle. You can't be real struggle with her. And the only way you think there might be struggle is if they tell the audience over and over, beats it on your head. Hey, she's struggling. Hey, there's something else going on there. But there's not. There's nothing else going on there. I did like the Fury setup, where he goes through the whole thing of saying his name, which again, you could say it's just exposition. But at least it was a setup for something, so I can appreciate that. Paid off with the Ben Mendelsohn thing. Again, unfortunately, they had to set up that Ben Mendelsohn was obviously a Skrull beforehand. Maybe that one would have been fine later on. We'll get to one that shouldn't have been shown right off the bat. But I like that setup. Later, we have a setup that doesn't work. First off, they let Sam Jackson do the fingerprint thing. But then he says, you should see what I can do with a paperclip. Nothing ever comes of it. Now, you might just say, well, that was just a passing comment. But if you pay attention to the movie, later on, when they're leaving and flying away, she hands him the picture and says, hey, recognize anything about this? And if you pay attention, there's a large paperclip in the bottom of the shot that it actually is focused on the paperclip, and actually her in the picture is a little bit blurry. It was clearly set up that something was going to happen with the paperclip. But it never did, and that pisses me off. Now it's probably cut, but I'm still going to give it that they just screwed up on screenwriting. That they clearly set something up that they never paid off. It's Chekhov's gun, man. Don't show me the gun if you're not going to fire it. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's just, again, basics of writing that you failed to get along with. Then we have the stupid speech right after that, where it's, your gut, Coulson he went with his gut and disobeyed orders. It's something that's really hard to do, but I guess that's what makes us human. Exposition again to try to set up the moment at the end. But it doesn't make any sense. Because the moment at the end is supposed to be the turning point. It's that moment, it's the climax of the character struggle where she realizes and she comes to the realization of what she really is inside. See, if you would have had this subtext of what I was talking about, this inner struggle, where she was actually struggling, and it was kind of hidden away a little bit, and you think that you just have the actual story of she's trying to find everything that she needs to find and stop the Skrull, and then you find out, no, it's actually a movie about her figuring out who she is. But instead they just yell at you the whole time, who are you, who are you, you doubt yourself, you're emotional. But he says that's what a human is, and later you have the big moment where the Supreme Intelligence says, no, you're just a human. And then she's like, oh, I am a human. And then she gets up and she rebels and goes with her gut now that tells her that they're bad, and she just destroys everybody. Except for that doesn't work, because immediately after Sam Jackson says it, she says, yeah, that's how I am. He's like, yeah, I can tell. So it's a pathetic, lazy setup for a payoff that we already know is going to happen. Because there's no character change. There's no struggle. There's no conflict in that moment. The irony of the whole thing is that it's showing that she was getting up every single point in her entire life. So this is just her being her, the same her that was at the beginning of the movie is the same her that's at the end of the movie. And so for now, she just happens to have more power. Get what I was saying at the beginning of this video? I'm saying it again at the end of this video because I'm doing exactly the same as the Marvels. There's no arc here. I told you everything about that video, this video, at the beginning of this video, and we're back right at it again. No arc, nothing there, just a bunch of exposition in the middle, and I tell you exactly what I told you at the beginning of the movie. See there? That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Why can't they do anything? Then let's just play with the logic of this, because it's fun to play logic when you're breaking down idiots' writing. Why would Sam Jackson know that that's how humans are? He just met an alien for the first time today. Bree, by the way, is a human. So he spent a minor amount of time with a Skrull that was pretending to be a human. Actually, both times was just a Skrull pretending to be human. He's literally never been around an alien that's an actual alien. And even if he believes that Bree is an alien and not a human at this point, he says that she is just like what he brought up, that he can believe that she's just like that. So what makes him say that that's what makes them human? How does he know that all aliens aren't like that as well? How does he know that that separates them? He doesn't. It's a stupid line, but it's only trying to set up an idiotic thing at the end of the movie. This is what I'm talking about. It's so terrible, awful writing, completely lazy, that makes absolutely no sense when even beginning to think about the logic behind all of this. She then sees her friend, which she doesn't remember. And she just says, oh, you don't remember me? One time, remember, you woke up and we left and we had a race and I could have beat you. It's like, oh, well, I don't remember the rules. And then it's like all emotional. And bravo to the actress that played Maria. That scene was well done. I buy she cares, but I don't buy the other character. Like I don't buy it at all. And you could say maybe that was the point because she's not into it. But this is supposed to be an emotional moment. But to me, it's not, because as well as that woman actress, as well as that girl, woman, young lady. If you've seen the movie, you get that joke. As well as that young lady did that. It just doesn't work because there's no character building up throughout that. Flashbacks do not make me believe that. I can Photoshop me with, who's an actor? Chris Pratt. And put up a bunch of flashes with it. And then I go meet him and film it. It's not going to be emotional because we don't know each other. It's no different than Captain Marvel in this. It's no different for us as the audience viewing this. It just doesn't make any sense. At all. Then she is shown pictures. And, oh man, I see some pictures and now I believe it. This is one of many things where she makes this quick turn. She spent her life with the Kree. She believes the Kree. She's been told this whole time of all the awfulness of the Skrulls. And all she's seen some pictures. But she knows she had some mind thing done to her by the Skrull. Couldn't she believe that maybe they implanted these things into her brain, hoping to get her to go rogue and help them find what they need to find? Because now she's on a mission to find these things. Because she thinks it's answering stuff about herself. Couldn't that have been done? I mean, clearly, the Kree implanted the vision that a Skrull shot mar-vell at the beginning of the movie. So why couldn't the Skrull do the exact same thing? And she's been taught this her whole life. It would be logic to sit there and continue to question whether or not this is real. But she doesn't. Because her friend told one story about her waking up early and going to have a race. And she believes it. And now she looks at pictures and here we are. They had the picture of the dad and like, oh, you didn't have a family because your dad's a dick. Which doesn't make sense. If he was that mad at her and embarrassed with her, he's not taking a picture with her at that moment. So then you have the neighbor knock, which I actually like. It's the one moment where it's actually decently works out and kind of somewhat funny of her having a fish out of water moment. Where you have this kind of confusion with how he's saying things. And you're laughing because you understand what he's saying about the bird and look-see-loo, or look-see and all this stuff, but then she's confused, and, you know, it works. Why couldn't they do more stuff like that? There was a lot of humor in the Thor movie because of confusion and acting weird for the place that he's at. This is when Ben Mendelsohn comes in, not hiding himself, and I absolutely love Ben Mendelsohn. He's one of the shining moments of this. He's the only one that actually has a real character that I actually got attached to. When I watched it with my girlfriend, she actually freaked out when he got shot towards the end of it. She was like, that was the only person I cared that was even slightly interesting in the movie, and then now he's going to get shot, and he's not going to be with his family. And so there was actually some story with him, and he played it brilliantly. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor, And so he did well throughout the whole thing. He just played it perfectly. Loved his character throughout. Unfortunately, he was just in a crap movie. Then you have the joke I made earlier, where he calls Maria young lady. This guy's an alien. She acts like he called her the B word or the C word. If you call me young lady again, I'm going to put my boot somewhere. Really? Is this where we're at now? Where a grown adult that could be hundreds of years old because he's an alien calls you young lady and you snap at him like it's the most offensive thing in the world. Yeah, but this is a bunch of strong women that can't take someone calling them a young lady without getting all emotional about it. Give me a break. This is so pathetic. So absolutely pathetic. Then they have the scene, which I like, instead of just having exposition, surprised that we just didn't see them all sitting around listening to the tape, but it actually cuts to them in the fighter pilot thing. I actually thought the fighter pilot thing was pretty cool. It was pretty nice. Unfortunately, we'll never get to see her in a fighter pilot thing again because she's better flying herself than flying a jet. But we'll get to our frustration with that in a second. The whole scene was pretty cool. I liked all of it. The reveal that Jude Law was bad. Not the greatest little twist. It was kind of given away. It wasn't the worst twist in the world either. My problem with this, though, is why would she not believe this is fake? She immediately comes out, and within minutes, she's completely turned away from all of her people. And she's on the side of the people that she believes have been terrorists and killing people. Because he says, no, we're good. We're just refugees. Which some more feminists probably not getting into that. It would be the easiest thing in the world for them to fake this. They can clone and take your DNA and speak and sound exactly like you. How hard would it be to pretend to be these people? It would be the easiest thing in the world for them to fake. It isn't even to the level of the other thing that I said she should have considered as fake. That the pictures and memory she has is fake. This is literally, they just like, oh yeah, we've been around her. Who can clone her? Oh, you do? Okay. Who can do Jude Law's character? You got it? All right. Now here's what we're going to do. Let's play this. Because they've seen the memory in her head. So all they got to do is add the little bit to twist the ending. It's so simple to do. It's the easiest thing in the world for them to do. But she doesn't even consider this. This is not a struggle for her. I mean, there's a little bit of conflict, to be fair, because I know people are like, you don't even remember that. She was like, you don't know me. You don't know who I am. Yeah, I mean, I get it. But there was never some real struggle. This is a big moment. Should be a big moment. But again, you know, especially for someone that has so much doubt and so much conflict and so much emotional issues and doesn't know who she are, that this should just really destroy her, and she knows nowhere to go. Not to mention, this is also the moment where she realizes for sure that mar-vell died, basically for her. But that's not a struggle at all either, because she doesn't struggle with things, because you got to have emotion for that. But just like before, strong female characters, as always, with these terrible writers, they don't have any like agency of their own. At first, she's told what to do by her mentor, the guy, and by the Supreme Intelligence. And now she can't make a decision, but now it's the woman that tells her what to do, which means it's the right decision. It's just funny that she doesn't really have, like, there's not moments where she's, like, really making the decision on her own. It's like someone tells her, no, this is what's right. Oh, okay, thanks. Now I know. It's like, but you're supposed to be this strong, powerful woman, and it just makes absolutely no sense. There's no questioning later. There's no moment where she sees Star Force again and she questions it because there was a connection and she knows for sure those were true memories and she had a relationship with these people. So it's a struggle. And even though she's more powerful, she doesn't want to hurt them because she still cares about them. You know, interesting things that should be in a movie. None of them are there. None of them. And then, so they're flying up to go to the place. Oh, first off, you have this stupid moment that is just, again, trying not to get on the whole feminist bullcrap. But the girl, so they asked Maria to be the co-pilot. She needs a co-pilot. Maria explains a lot of very reasonable reasons why this isn't a good choice. They're taking a ship that's not even made to go into outer space, that doesn't have the weapons prepared against an alien force that could be attacked with. They don't know how many people, into a scenario that they don't know what's going to happen at another ship that they're not sure what they can find. And she's got a daughter here. And there's no father around. So if something happens, now the kid is just all alone forever. It's very logical. It is the smart thing to do is to not go in this scenario. If you're a decent person, you don't go. Because when you become an adult, you got to make decisions that aren't the fun ones. Oh, I want to go out drinking with the buddies. Well, you can't because you got a baby at home. And you got to take care of the baby. Oh, shouldn't you think about what kind of example you should make for your kid, man? Don't you want your kid to be fun? You should go out and drink so you can be a good example for your friend, for your kid. Go drive too, bro. That'll be awesome. Man, that'll be so cool, bro. And then a young girl says, you should think about the example you're setting for your daughter. And Captain Marvel's like, yep, tell her, girl. What? How about you say, okay, yeah, here's the example I'm setting for you, little idiot. You're a kid. You don't know anything. Because something sounds fun doesn't mean it's always the best decision. Sometimes you got to think about what's actually best for everyone. And if one thing goes wrong, I don't have superpowers like other person over here that has no emotional connection to anyone because she has no relationship with anyone. Yeah, okay, so she has no connection. It's easy for her to tell people to go off. She doesn't even know who I am. Have you seen our relationship? We have no connection. We might as well be absolute strangers because no one, including me and the audience, believes that we have ever known each other before. So why should I sacrifice myself because she wants to go have a co-pilot? So this isn't smart because if I die, what are you going to do, honey? What are you going to do? You're not going to have anybody. Dad's not around because this is a movie about women. So the only person that can have a decent life raising up is you because you're a single parent. You're a single kid to a single parent. So what happens when I die? Oh, I should just go because it'll be fun. It's just, it's so stupid. And then we got to have some more exposition. They're flying up, and we got to repeat an explanation of having Ben Mendelsohn say, why can't you, how do you change? I got a question for you. And just exposition all the way up. This leads into the whole finale, which is just a chaos of feminist superpower crap, where basically she's like, oh, I've had one hand behind my back this whole time. She gets captured. So you're like, oh, wow, finally there's a little bit of struggle. Maybe there might be a problem because the one thing that I said could be a thing, they used it. They used the thing, depowered her, and stopped her. All right, so now she's going to actually have to deal with some struggle. Something's going to happen here. It's been a crap movie the whole time, but at the end, she's going to bring it home and something great's going to happen. But no, it's not. Because instead she gets up there and she realizes that she's a human and she stands up. So nothing changes. And so the thing just breaks off. It never kind of connected with her like, maybe I should check and see what happens if I pull this off. Do I still have powers? No? Okay. Oops. And then if they ask, just like, yeah, actually I was scratching my neck because I'm not used to it and I scratched it off, man. Can you put the power back in? For someone that's so rebellious, you would think that would be something they would do. But, I don't know. I want to make a joke about maybe it's just because I'm a man that I thought about it, but I'm not going to be mean to all the other women out there. That's not going to be a douchebag like all of These writers that try to make it out that men suck and women are great. That's so stupid. But she does the whole, I've had one hand tied behind my back. Let's see how I do now. Yeah, I know. You had two hands tied up earlier and you beat everybody. So one hand behind your back should be simple because at least you still got one hand to fight with. But now she's got all power. She could beat the Supreme. Intelligent. She gets loose and she just throws everybody away. She goes through and now she just is unbeatable. I mean, she just destroys through everyone like it's absolutely no problem. She's beating everyone that she was beating before, but now it's just easier. You had the cat scene that I mentioned before, and then the stupid song of Just a Girl by No Doubt. You had a chance to have some emotional level where this is stupid because there's no challenge. She gets thrown back against something at the very beginning of the fight with a stupid song going on, which with that song going on, you know there's not going to be any struggle. I mean, this just logic tells you. But she falls down, she kind of gives this smirk like, oh, wow, I'm so powerful. That was funny that they actually did something to me. And then later on, she's on the ground, and the guy's like, don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. Why would he say don't make me do it, other than it's the bad guy cliche of talking before it? She's like, okay. Boom, power, and then throws him off. Like she's laughing about the guy with the gun to her head. How are we supposed to be emotionally connected to the thoughts and issues? This is what happened with Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And why it didn't work like Guardians of the Galaxy did. Is they put too much humor in it. They just added humor and it never had any emotional connection. There's no fear. There's no ups and downs to the audience. You can only laugh for so long. And especially when it's not really a comedy and it's not that funny, it doesn't work. And especially when you have a character like Brie Larson that has the emotional intrigue of this wall right here compared to Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy. So then she gets away, but during this, you can at least have the emotional connection with what's going on with the Skrull. Ben Mendelsohn with his family, where clearly the Kree were mistreating the kids and women, and they were talking about throwing them out. And so you don't know whether or not they're free. And later on, you see that the Kree are marching out with the people. And that's when Sam Jackson holds up the cat, and the cat gets loose. And then goes over there, and there's a hint, but they shouldn't have given away that Ben Mendelsohn had turned into this, that Talos had turned into the other guy. Where you could at least feel like, crap, something happened. That, one bad thing's going to happen. And in your mind, you're thinking, Captain Marvel's going to have to beat these people quick enough so that she can get over here and save these people. Maybe they're going to be shot out in space, and she's going to have to learn how to fly to capture all those people to bring them back. And then you get the, oh my God, shock of like, oh, it was actually him when he shoots the people. But instead, you immediately tell that this is what happens. And then in case you missed the fact that he immediately tells that it's me, don't worry, I'm going to get these people. He then tells them again of saying, hey, just follow my lead. What lead? He just kills everybody. It's over with. There's no lead to follow. There's no like trick he's about to do that then Sam Jackson goes, oh man, that's cool. I need to do the same thing. He just shoots people. You needed to tell him to grab one of the guns that falls out of the people? You need to tell him that? Are you kidding me? And then to one more time, to remind the audience, this is not a shocking moment. We're not going to use this obvious little tactic we have that can make a little bit interesting to this crappy story. We're going to tell the mom to hide the kid's eyes, which she doesn't even do. And it has no effect on the girl, so why was it even said? I didn't even think about that until right now. Why? And then, because reasons, then you shoot them at the last little moment, make it look like, oh, we're going to make something happen right at the end. But then he just gets up perfectly fine. And then Captain Marvel has a little bit of issue with her mentor. She can't quite destroy him immediately. So what happens? She tries to hit the window to break down. She falls. She's falling all the way down. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh no. And then she's like, oh, just repeats the Ray thing. And just, oh. Boom. Now I have super beyond powers. Like, somebody could slightly challenge me for a second, yet again, and so I just become more powerful. It's like how to become powerful to more powerful to more powerful. And it's never anything she actually does. It's just like, it just happens. It's not like she learns something and it makes her grow so she becomes more powerful, which allows her to beat this person. She just closes her eyes and now she can fly. Incredibly well. She's doing things that Iron Man was doing in the second and third Iron Man. She's doing it right off the bat. Yet Tony Stark had the whole moments of flying off everywhere, couldn't figure out how to fly the Iron Man thing. But she can do hers perfectly because why? She's a perfect woman. That's why. Because women and feminism, that's why she can do all this stuff. But then they bring in Ronan. So maybe now we have a challenge. Here we go. Let's see. Let's finally see a challenge for her. But no, it's not a challenge for her. It's just another way to show just how powerful she is. They shoot like 20 missiles down. Now, if you remember from Avengers, Iron Man by himself had to fight and struggle to push a missile up. And if I remember right, I think it was a missile shot from just the US, like another place on Earth. So the missiles are not even as powerful as what Ronan and the Accusers have. And he had to struggle to do that. But no, Captain Marvel, within minutes of having the power to fly, can destroy all of them at once. And then when they go to attack, she kind of gets bumped off a little bit, and she's like, ah, ha, ha. And then she just starts boom, boom, just destroying, and she actually blows up a missile by like belly flopping it. And then it's just like, woo, ha, ha, yeah, woo, girl power. And then the worst thing ever, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was already not good. The first Guardians of the Galaxy was great. A lot of people enjoyed it. It's a lot of people's favorite Marvel movie. Big shocker, great moment. And you talk about that the next phase is going to be out, in space more, which means the Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be in it more. You just destroyed their first person that they had to be, like, they had to join together. There's a whole emotional thing, story building, character arcs, learning things, coming together as a team to finally be able to all join together to defeat Ronan. If they just would have known all they had to do was, I mean, it is just unbelievable. And then just to top off the final little things as you close off of this horrible film, they need to throw one little bit of exposition in there again. In case you didn't know that Ben Mendelsohn's character played other people, he then repeats all the characters he played while they're sitting at the table. Then they go to fly away, and even though she's only been flying for like a few hours, she's going to fly across the galaxy next to the ship. She's not even going to get in the ship and go with them. Like, it's not even like, I just want to talk with them. Like, it'd be easier to just sit in a ship instead of like, but no, she can do that as well as a ship that the Kree and the Skrull were fighting to the death to be able to get this ship. She could just do all of that on her own. And then the top of the list of just is they named the Avengers after her nickname as a fighter pilot. I'm worn out from this. That's the end of this. If you like the video, like it, comment down below and we'll discuss if I missed anything. Or if you disagree with me, if you want to support the channel, I'll put a link to some of my merchandise that you can get. That'd be awesome. Subscribe if you want to keep up with videos. Like I said, I'll do the feminist video next. I got a few other videos in mind, and I'll do the Alita and Captain Marvel and the Wonder Woman Captain Marvel and kind of break down how you actually do strong women. Because unlike what everybody tries to say, it's not about being sexist and not wanting women in movies. It's just about wanting good women in movies. It's why I did the Kill Bill, The Bride versus Ray, the video I did before, which I'll put up at the end of this, where I love Kill Bill. It's one of my favorite movies. And everybody loves Kill Bill. Everybody loves, there's a lot of female characters that are really strong that a lot of people love. Like Ridley from the Alien movies. A lot of people love Ahsoka. I love Asajj Ventress. Princess Leia. It can go on and on. So many people have done this. There's so many. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, there's just, you can go on and on. We just want good characters, man. And I'm so sick of these bad characters. And so, I'll just keep doing my thing to try to open people's eyes. But Anyways, this has been long enough. I hope you enjoyed it. All the other things I said before. Thank you guys very much for watching. And never forget, you Nerf herders, I love you.